Welcome back to One on One with Mr. Yu. I'm your host, Mr. Yu. In studio with us, author Tommy Kilpatrick. This man has some explosive findings surrounding credit card debt and some other things regarding the banks. Our pre-interview was incredible. You guys got to hear this story, so we're going to try to hopefully get all this incredible information to you in 30 minutes or less. So we'll see how that's going to work out, but we're excited about the opportunity and the challenge. But Tommy, good morning, man. Good to have you in the house today.
Good morning to you. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Oh, no, the pleasure's all mine, man. We had a great chat, man. What you found to me is astounding. I wish I knew some of this stuff many years ago, but I'm going to give you the unenviable task of trying to walk through an interview with me on this incredible topic, this large topic, in such a short span of time. So we're gonna make it work out. But customarily, I always ask our guests to come in and kind of share their upbringing and their childhood, kind of what life was like for you and how, what kind of key points and turning points there were for you in your childhood that got you to where you are right now. So what's your childhood, your upbringing, man? What was life like young Tommy?
Well, it was a wonderful life for me. I was born and raised in Long Beach, California. Okay. My dad was a CPA, a certified public accountant, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom. Okay. Had a good life. At about age 7, I was into money, and so I baked some cake and made some Kool-Aid. And I had my friends come over to buy it, but they didn't have any money. So I told them, go find me 3 customers that pay, and I'll give you a piece of cake or Kool-Aid for free. So I had already salespeople going out, drumming up business for me. And then when I was 14, I had a job as selling peanuts by the side of the road.
Oh, my goodness.
And a roaster. So I learned all about goobers and peanuts and all that kind of stuff. And then at 15, I had my own motorcycle, and I drove to my job in the summer, and I was a diver. I worked in Dana Point, scraping barnacles off boats.
And, oh, my goodness. Wow.
Yeah. That led me into graduating early in January. And about 2 months later, I had my own apartment. I got a job as an insurance investigator. Even though I lied, I told them I was 19. And they had my driver's license. They knew I was only 17. So then when I kind of looked at them and saying, do I really want to do this 30, 40 years from now? I went, nah, I'll pass. I'll go for the easy life. I'll become a CPA like my dad, take over the business. So I went to college and went that direction, but never got the certificate. But yeah, it's a quick story about my life. It was great. Fantastic. It was fun. It was a wonderful upbringing.
Oh, yeah, man. It sounds like it was, man. Quite a journey, man. It's going to a whole different realm, man. Tell me if you can crystallize it. How did this journey that you're on right now, how did that start? I mean, you're clearly an entrepreneur because you started it. It was on in your early formative years, clearly. So, but how'd you get to this place? Can you kind of track that for us?
Sure. I'm a retired teacher and an author, so I like to write books. I wrote a book on health and healing. And in 2004, I was given an infomercial contract. And so I was test marketed on radio stations all across the country for about 6 months. So I lived on my 3 credit cards because I was promised about $100,000 a month. So then a problem occurred, as always happens. And so one of the talents got in trouble with the FTC. He made some claims of weight loss that weren't really true. And so they came down hard on the company. And so the company, all the new talents contracts were canceled. So I was stuck with $85,000 of credit card debt.
Wow. So you, like many of us, got stuck with it. And some of it is just outrageous spending and greed, and some of it is just not knowing the system and how things work, man. But from what I'm hearing from you, man, you got some findings that I call explosive surrounding credit card debt. Let's try to get into it a little bit, kind of set the table for when you begin to discover that, you know what, there might be a problem with the system, or the system might be rigged, or whatever it is, that you discover. Kind of walk us through that.
Sure. And I'm a doubting Thomas, so I invite you and your whole audience to not believe a single thing I have to say today. In the show notes, I will have links there for you to double check and make sure what I'm saying is correct. And take this podcast to your CPA, your certified public accountant, or one person who's had a class in accounting. That's all they need. And they'll tell you I'm 100% accurate. This is not some crazy sovereignty idea of bills of exchange or something like that. This is just basic sound banking, and anybody who's been involved in business will know that I'm talking about is 100% correct. So what happened to me is one morning I woke up in that debt situation, and I realized that I was thinking about my dad being a CPA. And so I realized that the bank does not have an invoice. And my first job as an accountant was the CFO, which is a CPA usually, kind of walked up to my desk and pointed a finger in my face, said, if you pay for my statement, I'm going to fire you. And that has stuck to me. So that's a unique experience that someone doesn't usually have. So because he explained that the owner of the company might have worked a deal out and there is no debt, or it could have crossed in a mail and it's not true that we owe the money, or then, only look at the invoice, and only if a department head signs it are you to pay for it. So right from the beginning, I knew that the bank, now I realized, did not have an invoice, so I don't have a debt. Then you say, oh, they did a loan. Okay, well, in my classes of accounting, we had to read a book called Modern Money Mechanics, and that's in your show notes. And on page 6, it says what they do is to get a loan is they accept your promissory note in exchange for writing numbers into your free checking account. So that's what they do. You sign a piece of paper promising to pay them back. Now they have the legal ability to sue you. But what they do is they write numbers, any numbers they want, into a free checking account, and that's how you get money. So then my father at the time was a judge and an attorney, and he and I had long conversations about fraud undoes all contracts. So when the bank defrauded me, lying to me about this whole situation, that does not obligate me to a contractual agreement. So what I had was a free checking account from the bank.
Wow. Just it feels like this gets really, really deep. I saw some of your previous work, some of your previous conversations with other media personalities, and it's I saw the term banking flaws. I kind of want you to flesh it out a little bit, because it feels like they seem to be holding all of the cards. So is it really a banking flaw, or is it a loophole? How would you describe what it actually is, and what you've been seeing, at least from their end of things?
Well, what it is you and I are victims of the bank fraud. The banks are committing fraud on us.
Wow.
So what has happened is that law is language, language is law. So if you say you have credit card debt, you got it. There's no way out of it. I heard these people all complain about how they got sued, and all they're trying to do is negotiate the debt. They each say they have credit card debt, you lose. Now, what I'm trying to suggest to you and your audience is to use the word allege. Just add one word. So what I'm talking about is that when we see a bank robbery, we always say alleged. So why can't we say alleged credit card debt? Now that puts the burden on the bank to prove that there's a debt. Now, I'm not trying to get out of people getting out of debt. No, this is not that at all. What I'm trying to talk to you about is there are true credit cards. And what that's going to be like is that, say you need tires for your car. You go into a tire store and you don't have the money. Oh, they'll say, hey, Mista Yu, why don't you fill out the in-store credit card application? And if you're approved, you get the tires. And sure enough, you drive away with brand new tires, and you didn't pay for those tires, did you? No. At the end of the month, you get a statement, which is true, and they have an outstanding unpaid invoice. The invoice shows the day you took the tires out, the day that they did the service to balance them, and they put them on, there's taxes, all that kind of stuff. So they have an invoice. The bank does not. So how do you know a card is a true credit card or a fraudulent one? That I look at the back on Amazon, or let's say Walmart, or any department store you think is a real store, look on the back. If it says issued by Bank of America, Bank of London, Bank of India, whatever, that's a phony card, because they don't have an invoice. They didn't provide you goods and services. You didn't go in there. So that's the bottom line, is on the one half, they never could have ever issued a credit card because they didn't give you credit. They're not a store. They're not a merchant. They're not a service provider. They're a bank. So that's half of the argument.
Wow. So what should you see on the back of the card that lets you know that it's quote unquote legitimate? Can you share some examples of what it should look like?
Well, a legitimate card would be like a merchant that gave you their goods and services and you
Uh-huh.
didn't pay for them. They have an invoice. So if they have an invoice, that's the legal document for a debt. So when you ask that from the bank, they don't have one. So now your argument is they loaned us the money. Okay, now we got to go that route. So you can't have it both ways. You can't go to a merchant and then have an invoice and then say, oh, can I borrow $10,000? It doesn't work that way. So the banks are the ones involved in loans and the merchants are involved in issuing credit. Okay. So when you go into a bank without any money, you expect to come out with money, and that's done through a loan. So let me ask you a question here, Mr. Yu. If you apply for a loan and the bank turns you down, do you still get the loan?
No.
No, sir, of course not. You don't get the loan. They turned you down. But if you are approved, that means a request. You requested it. Then they approved you. You went in and you filled out loan documents. Remember all that? All
I
that
do.
paper, all those things. Yeah. So they also have to prove you have to prove your income, because the bank could be taken into court and a judge would say, they're making loans to people who don't have an income. That's predatory. So the banks have to get you to prove that you have an income, because how are you going to pay the loan back? You also have to have collateral. Collateral means like a home or a car, or if you do a personal loan, like your yacht, let's say. So if
Mhm.
you don't pay, they have the legal ability to take it away from you, sell it, and then keep the money. If they're short, that's their problem. If they're long, they got to give you the difference. They don't get to enrich themselves on your collateral. So that's what banks do, is they issue out loans. Now, when they have that loan application, you also have a credit report that shows your history, and also your credit score determines the interest rate. But the last thing you sign is a promissory note. You have to
Oh,
promise to pay it back. That's the legal document. The bank can go in and say, Judge, they promised to pay and they didn't. Is this your signature, Mr. Kilpatrick? Yes, it is. Well, then you owe the money. Or they took the car away from you or took the house away. So this does not work for mortgages. It doesn't work for car loans, personal loans where you have put up something kind of collateral and you've signed a
oh.
promissory note. So since the bank does not have a promissory note, didn't have a loan.
For people who are just, I guess, not in the know on this, which could be millions of us, how how would you walk? Is there a quick step to kind of help them know know certain things, or notice certain things? Because promissory note, anytime you sit at one of those big tables with all those piles of paper, guess what you're just doing? You might be looking it over, but nobody's not signing the promissory note. Nobody's not signing the promissory note. So it's like, what? Help me kind of not dumb it down. I don't mean any offense to our viewers and listeners, but kind of just break it down to the lowest common denominator. You go into a situation where you're faced with scenario you laid out. What are we looking for right away? What are some of the first things that we should be keeping our eyes peeled for, and what should we not sign? Does that make sense, Tommy?
Well, sure, that's one thing, but really
Yeah.
simple is that what banks are involved in with is making loans. So they want you to be a customer and they spend money to get you to be a customer. Years ago, they would purchase toasters and wall clocks and have them in the bank. And when you came in to open an account, they said, hey, open an account today and we'll give you this toaster. Well, back then it was a big deal. But then years ago, I saw an ad in the paper that said, come into our bank and deposit $25 and we will match it and in 90 days. So what did I do? I took my $25, put it into my savings account, waited 91 days, went into the bank and took out my 25 and the bank's $25, right? And I closed the
Okay.
account. Let me ask you a question, Mr. You and your audience. Was that illegal? Did I rip off the bank?
I don't think you did by closing your account. No, I wouldn't think
Was
so.
that was that immoral what I did?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. They said, do this. I did it and I got my money. I also took their money, didn't I? So they lost $25 on me, but it's just the cost of doing business. It's their advertising budget. The
Right.
same thing happened to you and me with that $500 credit card, let's say. So the important thing is that if you apply, that's all you're doing is asking. And that's why I had to
Okay.
kind of go through the whole document.
Yeah.
So what you did is and sometimes they came in the mail and you didn't even, you're pre-approved. There you go. So they gave you a card. We always say the word gave. So if I give you something, that's called a gift.
Like a
So
gift card.
a gift card. You see, if you use the language of the criminal, you'll never win the argument. But if you start with the truth is when they give you a card, well, why would they want to do that? Because they make money on you. How do they, you type it up? I did it 2 months ago. What does the average person pay in average credit card interest and payments? It's $23.04. So if a bank has 1 million card members, they're bringing in $23 million a month. And in my calculations, I figured out it's about 1/4 of their profit. So the banks are
Wow.
profiting off of you being a crime victim. You are a crime victim because what you're doing is you're paying $23.04 on average per month for a free checking account. What are you talking about? Okay. The
Wait a
gift
minute. How
card
much? How much?
$23.04 on average for a free checking account. They didn't tell you that. They didn't notify you. That's not disclosing. And that's one of the things about undoes all kinds of contracts is fraud. And so you have to disclose that. So here's what happened. You didn't even apply. A card came in the mail that said, here you are, pre-approved, go use the card. What'd you do? You used it, like you should, a gift card. So you went to, let's say, Home Depot, and you bought a toilet, let's say, a golden throne. So you're
Yeah.
walking out with a golden throne, and a person at the door says, hey, did you pay for that? You didn't pay for that toilet, did you? $500 did not come out of your pocket. You had a gift card. Now, you have a receipt that proves that you actually paid for it. So here's the question. Are you going to be getting a statement at the end of the month from Home Depot for an outstanding unpaid invoice? No.
No.
So who paid Home Depot that night or the next day? Somebody had to pay Home Depot. Who
Right.
paid them?
Absolutely. You're right.
Bank of America, whatever. So the bank paid. Why would they pay that? Because they're trying to get you as a customer. This is a lead-in to get you to be a customer, like a promo. So at the end of the month, you got a statement. That's true. Think about your regular checking account. Is that a bill? When you get your checking account statement every month, is that a bill?
I don't think. I think it's just a
No.
notice of what you have in your
Right.
account.
Right.
Right.
It's accounting. You started at this, you made deposits, you wrote out checks and debits and stuff like that. And it's your ending balance. It's not a bill. Well, the bank tricked you into thinking it was a bill. So what did you do? You're a good person. You're a moral person. Legally, what you thought you had to do was you're a crime victim, but you still did it. You wrote out a $500 check from, let's say, your Bank of Cincinnati or whatever. And that's the first time Bank of America ever got your money. Think this through. Is that right? You got a card in the mail. You went to Home Depot. You got a statement at the end of the month, and you thought it was a bill. And from your checking account, Bank of Ohio, whatever, you wrote that check out to Bank of America. Is that the first time Bank of America ever saw your money? Right? Well, think about it.
Wow.
That's the first time Bank of America ever got your money. So the banks are all set up about loans. So if you go into a bank with no money, you expect to come out with a loan. What happens when you take money into a bank and leave it, that's actually technically a loan. And that's in your show notes in the very first link. So you are loaning the bank money. As you spend your money at your checking account or savings account, then they have less obligation, but then you can fill it back up if you want to. So when you wrote that check for $500 to Bank of America from your own personal bank, you just deposited $500 into your own checking account, your free checking account. So every purchase since then has been with your own money. You never borrowed.
This sounds nefarious.
It's what it is. So when I had the $85,000 of credit card debt, what I did is I sued the banks in federal court. Okay. So
Set that story up for us, Tommy. Set that story up because that's incredible too. Set that story up for us. Sure.
So what happened is I was watching YouTube back in the early days. There was a guy that came on and said, it's so easy to file a federal lawsuit. And the judges are so accommodating because you're pro se, you're by yourself. They know you're not an attorney. So they're very accommodating to you and helpful. Not for me. So I filed 3 federal lawsuits in Los Angeles and things were going great. We're going to have deposition coming up and the bank was going to have to bring someone to me so that I could ask them questions and documents of where is the invoice? No invoice, no debt. Where's the promissory note? No promissory note. There's no loan. And because he's a judge and attorney, my father-in-law, we'd had long discussions about fraud under all contracts. So I do not have a contractual agreement with you, bank. You've defrauded me. So what I have is a checking account, and I withdrew my money. And now you're coming after me for me closing a checking account. So, well, what happened? The judge called me in, and I'm so my phone was going, that's really strange. They don't do that. Normally, they just want to know where are you going with your discovery? Are you on target, on time? So,
Right.
but I called in and not the defendants. The banks weren't there. I was. He said, Mr. Kilpatrick, do you have a credit card? Well, let me start at the beginning. Oh, no, we'll start at the beginning later. Oh, do you have a credit card? Well, it started off as a gift card. A gift card because he read my complaint. Okay, sometimes they
Mhm.
don't read it until they finally get nudged by the bank going, hey, we got a problem here, get rid of this case. So he went, oh my God, he knows what's the scam's going on. So then he said, pull your card out. Pull my card out. Said, read right there with the credit card. You're an idiot. Get out of here. So he dismissed my 3 cases. So I went, oh,
Wow.
well, there I go. I'm going to be sued. I'm going to be taken to court. I'm going to lose all this money. And I looked at my
Wow.
credit report a month later, gone. All 3 of those credit card bank issued alleged credit card accounts were gone off my credit. My score improved because of
What
that.
happened? What happened? How'd that happen?
So how this happens is a friend of mine gave me a charity, and so it was a dormant charity. I turned it into a credit repair, and a lot of people have a few credit cards they couldn't pay. So I would explain to them that it wasn't a credit card, and I wrote a letter to the bank and to the credit reporting agency, and it was off their credit report. So I did up to about 1,000 people over about a 10-year period. So some of them had higher amounts they would push back, but I would have an expert witness. My CPA expert witness was always there available. And then once we showed up, the bank's attorney went, okay, we don't have any proof of debt. And they would just sign an agreement that there would be taken off your credit report and there would be no debt. The judge was going, what? This is not normal because we had the goods on the bank. So they didn't want to happen. So for you and your customer and your audience that you are seeing this, bank issued alleged credit card debt, what you do is you write a letter to the bank asking to
Okay.
close your account. The second thing is to have your CPA write a letter to the bank saying there is no invoice. If you got one, send it and I'll pay it. 2, you didn't issue, and you could not have issued a loan because there's no promissory note. And then you have your attorney. Oh, no, they're talking about huge expense. Prepaid legal, or now they're called Legal Shield. For $29, you have an attorney for a month. It's all you need them for. You don't do anything more than after that. The attorney's going to write a letter to the bank saying that fraud undoes all contracts. And here's the Supreme Court rulings, and it's in the show notes. So it's right there to prove to them that there is no contractual agreement. And all they want is to close my account, take it off my credit report, and be done with you. So a
All
little
right.
bit more powerful is to file a lawsuit, but you don't file it. You fill the paperwork out and you send it off to the registered agent. And so they see a brick of paper with a discovery and everything. And the last thing is the injunction. This is the best part. So you've heard a lot about injunctions lately. So I'm talking to you and your audience. They all know that Trump does one thing, somebody runs into court and does an injunction, and they stop. Well, we do the same thing. We don't file the lawsuit, but the bank knows that they sue you. You're going to ask the court for an injunction. It's very simple. You can do it yourself. It's not difficult at all. So what you're asking a judge to do is to look at the invoice and a copy of the promissory note and an affidavit of debt. You're asking the bank to show the judge that 1, there is an invoice, 2, that there is a promissory note, and 3, someone in the bank is going to swear on the penalty of perjury. That means if they're wrong, they go to jail or they have a fine, and that they have the evidence that you have a debt. Well, if that doesn't happen, the bank is then held in contempt of court. So that's the thing that stops the bank. They're not going to go any further forward. And so what I'm saying to you is you got to draw the money out. If you call it max out your cards, now you're thinking like the bank wants you to think, a criminal. No, you're withdrawing your money. So you have to withdraw your money. So most of the people I meet, I'm able to help and get them money they didn't even know they had and eliminate off their credit report in about 45 days. So it doesn't sound that difficult, and it really isn't. It's not really a complex thing. It's just that basic accounting. And I came across this fraud that no one else is promoting, I guess. I don't know. I'm the one talking about it.
I'll be honest, Tommy. It feels like it's a lot. You've been around this on this track for quite a while, so you've done it multiple times and helped people do it. In the moment, it feels kind of overwhelming, but I loved how you broke it down and how you shared it. There's definitely there's value here for sure. Is there?
Let me ask you a question. Mr. Yu. Let's say you purchase a 1 share of stock of Bank of America. You now have material interest in their profit. So now it's your bank, right? Now, would you want your bank to loan out your money to someone who has no income?
Of course not.
Where's the income proof of these credit card applications? There's people on YouTube that tell you, put any number down. They don't verify. And the higher it is, you'll get a bigger credit limit, which is not a true statement. It's just their gift card, okay? So would you want your bank to loan out your money to people who can't pay it back or who don't even sign a promise to pay it back?
No, of course not. No,
it's ludicrous. You would never do that. So the bank doesn't do that. They induce you to be a customer because they know they're going to make $23.04 on average every month. So that's what they do. So, Tommy, do you have a credit card? Of course I do. What? What are you doing? I know. I was off grid for about 10 years on a farm. Okay, I had no credit score, no credit report, but I was going to the Philippines and I needed to buy an airline ticket. You got to do that with a credit card. Oh, I know. And then I had to rent a car with a credit card. Yeah, I know. So I applied to Capital One and they gave me a $500 credit card. So how'd they do that with no score and no credit report? Well, I was a previous customer. I was a good customer, right? They had me in our records. That's one of the banks I sued for $35,000 in federal court. So the banks are going to give you a credit card immediately because they make $23.04 on average. That's why they want you to apply anytime, anywhere. It doesn't matter. Apply. Because if it fits their parameters, they make $23.04 on average every month. They make nothing from me because it's not an annual fee. One podcaster told me he's paying $800 for an annual fee on one credit card. Wait, for a free checking account? So I never pay an interest. So when I got the card, my score went to 550. Then I got a little tiny loan from a credit union that boosted me up to about 625. And I've been using the card 10%. So $50 every month, paying it off, never carrying a balance and never being late. And now my score is at 705. And I want to get it to 800 to prove to you and your audience that, yes, you can do this and raise your score back up and have no score and be an 800 in a matter of less than a year.
Oh my God. Tell me I'm dizzy, sir. It's a lot going on. But I love this. But I went ahead and posted your link. I did have it. DIY debtrelief.com, I believe it is. It's going to be in the notes. It's an opportunity to have a free book and a free 15-minute consultation with Tommy. After all you've heard, I highly recommend you connect with Tommy to get more of the details because, it's a podcast, so things are moving kind of quick. DIY-debtrelief.com. Check it out. Tommy's offering a free 15-minute consultation and a free book as well. So very generous of you, Tommy. Thank you for doing that. Just a couple more questions for you, and we can go ahead and close our show out today. Now, you talked about the Philippines, and I want to get to that eventually. But we're here now. You have a big goal and a big dream regarding the Philippines. So I'd love to hear and have you share what you're planning to do and what kind of sparked it and why you want to do this. Go ahead.
Sure. Well, I came here, and I say it in their language is Naga Kangita Asawa. I came here looking for a wife, and so I now have a fiance. So what I'm
What?
here for in the
Congrats, brother.
Philippines, yeah. So long story, but it's fun. And so I came here to teach farmers how to build a dome house or dome structure with bamboo, and also do vertical gardening. They are bending over doing what they've been doing planting for 10,000 years,
Yeah.
and you don't need to bend over. This can be vertically, and we can grow a lot more food. And also, I want to set up a free self-managed medical clinics for them. So to do this and finance this, that's why I wrote the book about how so I've been hearing it's $1.3 trillion of credit card debt, and it's not. It's not 1.3 trillion. It's what the banks want you to deposit in your free checking account. That's all it is. So if I can get everybody to write a letter to eliminate their free credit, their free checking account, and take the money out first before you do that, because they won't give you the money back. So that's how I'm able to finance this whole thing. That's my project here in the Philippines, to give back to the people who have given me so much love and mercy, which means extreme kindness. So I want to repay them back.
I love this, man. I love this. And I said it's going to be my last two questions, but you said spark one more question, so we're going to take a little extra time for me to ask you this question.
That's fine.
I don't know most of my listeners, I feel they think like I do. They kind of get where I'm coming from with what I ask. It feels like you're going against, as far as you versus the bank, I feel like you're going against a behemoth, kind of like David and Goliath kind of situation. Is this, beside what you shared, is there any momentum that this is winnable for more than just a handful of people? Are you seeing momentum in any areas, in other cases, things that are going on nationally? Do you see any momentum where people are kind of, taking it to the man, so to speak, taking it to the machine? Are you seeing any momentum there, or is it just kind of in little small pockets around the country? What are you seeing?
Well, I kind of got interested in one guy who was talking about driving without a license. And I love that idea. I've been around the sovereignty movement since I was 16. And so I've loved it, not paying taxes. But I see these people end up going to jail. And the next person goes, oh, they did it all wrong. You got to do it this way. Then they end up going to jail. It's like, oh, I don't know. So I've seen these people with these crazy ideas about getting out of credit card debt. And that's the problem. They keep calling it credit card debt. So I'm not the smartest guy. I'm just an accountant. I know how to count, and I have a memory from the modern money mechanics. So I put this together. So the only thing I can think of why everybody doesn't know about this is the non-disclosure. So obviously other people have figured this out and have gone to the banks and doing this, and they have to sign a non-disclosure. So don't be surprised that once you start this, you have to sign a non-disclosure, because they don't want this to be known. And so if I can reveal this, like in the Wizard of Oz, pull the curtain back, it's all smoke and mirrors of what they're doing to us in the banks. So the banksters are a reason. And so if you look at just look up inflation, 1776 to present, and you'll see it flatlined in World War II straight up. And I believe the the Federal Reserve created the Depression. They admit that. They raised the interest rates and showed off the economy. But what was the reason? What was the purpose? The end result were banks went out of business all across the country, and they were absorbed into larger and larger banks. That's how they became big banks, by absorbing little banks. And so that's when they could do the fractional banking system, which is where they have you sign a promissory note, and then they can write down any number they want in your free checking account. Now there's money put in the economy, and that's inflation. So before that, if you did a loan, you took money out of someone's pocket and gave it to somebody else. This, ever since 33, and since really in World War II, when they finally consolidated, they just have jacked it. So we're all paying for this inflation. And if you know inflation's happening, you want to borrow now because you're going to pay back later. So all the people who are in on it, they can make money by having that inflation. And what we do is we work longer and harder.
Brother. Well, Tommy, this has been a gem of a podcast. I am enlightened. I'm enlightened on all of our interviews. I always learn at least one thing. I learned way more than one thing today. I'll be in touch, sir. But I want to ask our final question for the show before we close out. It's customary for all of our guests to answer this. I kind of give you a little prep before that. We call it the CMV question, career, mission, and vocation. We're taking away all the things that you've done up to this point, Tommy. All the things in your writing, in your accounting work, taking it all for the table. What do you think you'd be most likely doing right now, career-wise, mission-wise, vocation-wise, if you weren't doing any of the things that you've been doing up to this point? What do you think you'd be doing?
Well, first of all, I learned the language in 30 days. So I have a book. I'm having my fiance do the artwork. So that should be out here in about another 2 or 3 more weeks.
Congrats,
And
brother.
I learned Hiligaynon language in 30 days. It's a revolutionary new way to think about how to learn language. You don't have to go to a book. You don't have to learn the grammar. You don't have to go to school. It's things that you want to know. So when I go to the market, I can recite all the vegetables because I'm a vegetarian. It's important to me. I can do all the frutas, that's the fruit, and the mani, which is peanuts. I had some previously here. So
Okay.
I went to the peanut salesman and I spoke to him with no English, with all Hiligaynon, which is the third most popular language. It's where my fiance speaks in the area I live in. So the next book will be on Bisaya or Cebuano, which is the second most popular language. And then the other one will be in Tagalog. But then I'll be able to duplicate it for all major languages. So that's kind of like what I'm up to is learning a new language and to be able to spread it around. So that's if I to do all that stuff, I'm just speaking a language and writing more books. I have another idea on feeding people free food and how you make a profit. So that's another whole thing is coming up that we can talk about maybe in another podcast. But
yeah,
and
absolutely,
I want to prove
man.
it first before you put me on. I want to have the evidence.
Of course.
How do you give free food away and still make about $5,000 a day in America? It wouldn't work it here, but it won't work in America. I had to come here to test it because it's just too expensive. It's just too much of a risk to do it in America. But once I can prove I can do it here, I'm coming back to show you how you can feed people for free and still bring in $5,000 a day.
Yeah, you come call me when you get that theory proven. We'll talk in depth about that one. But Tommy, thanks for jumping in here, man. This was a fantastic conversation. www.diy-debtrelief.com. You can reach out to Tommy there. He's offering a free book as well as a free 15-minute consultation. I highly recommend you take advantage of that. It'll be in the show notes, and I will be also promoting it on social media, so you can find his website and find Tommy to get that consultation in that free book. Tommy, thanks again, man, for your time on this. This has been fantastic. I'm still dizzy. I'm still overwhelmed, but I definitely learned something, and I credit you for that, man. So thank you for sharing what you shared, and we will definitely be in touch. Any closing thoughts for the people, man, before we get out of here? Any closing thoughts?
You can find me on Facebook on Tommy A. Kilpatrick, and your mind is like a parachute. It only works when it's open. So I ask you to have an open mind, and let's have some fun.
I love it. Thank you, Tommy. Tommy and Mr. Yu, we're out of here. Have a fantastic day. Thanks again for watching and listening to One-on-One with Mr. Yu.